So how much does it cost to self-publish a book? Because that is one of the first questions that many indie authors ask, because, you know, it can be expensive to self-publish. In today's video, we're going to be discussing exactly how much money I spent to self-publish this book right here, The Trail to You and Me. I'll be talking about what I spent on the cover, formatting, editing, some marketing stuff, and everything in between. I make a video like this for every single book that I publish, so if you're curious what I've spent on past books, I will leave a link to the playlist down below. In that playlist, I talk about the individual self-publishing costs for every single book that I've published. I will say putting this video together was not all that fun for me because I spent way more than I technically budgeted for, so whoops. Before we get started, I want to note that all of the expenses that we talk about today do not include anything for the book adventure box. This is the book adventure box that I created for The Trail to You and Me. It has 6 individual little gifts that you open as you read the book, and it has to do with something that's going on in the book as you read it. So this was a separate product all in itself, so I didn't want to include the costs of creating the book adventure box in the cost of self-publishing the book, because I did not need this in order to self-publish the book. This is kind of its own product and adventure. Now, with that said, I have not sold out of the book adventure box yet for The Trail to You and Me, so if you're interested in seeing what the gifts are and kind of having an interactive reading experience, make sure to order the book adventure box while you still can. Quantities are extremely limited, and you can either buy just the box or you can buy the box with a signed edition of the book. Link to shop this will be down below. Okay, let's talk expenses. I track all my expenses in my book launch planner. It's a part of the book launch planner series. This planner is used to plan out your book launch. There's pages on finding your ideal reader and a checklist and a book publishing timeline. But today we're here to talk about the expense tracker. So my biggest flaw is that I didn't start off by creating a budget, because the book launch planner allows you to create a budget. It has a column for the different things that you'll need to spend money on, and then the estimated cost, and then the actual cost. And my issue is that I just never did any of the estimated cost stuff to create a budget, and I just kind of started, doing stuff. And I feel like every single book that I publish, I'm always like, okay, I'm gonna publish this one on a budget. And then I don't, and then I regret it. Anyways, I'm just going to start running through the list I have here in my book launch planner to tell you guys what I spent on everything. The biggest expense by far, and it's an expense that I don't think I'll ever cut corners on ever again, which is kind of a bummer because it is expensive, is copy edits. I know copy edits are my weakness. I don't spend anything on developmental edits. I don't usually spend anything on proofreading anymore, but I do invest heavily in my copy edits because I know that's my weak point. Everything else I can make up with somewhere, somehow. But copy edits, I work with Enchanted Ink Publishing. Everyone over there is amazing. I specifically work with Natalia, and she always does an amazing job on my manuscript. So she was my copy editor, and I spent about $1,200. It was technically slightly less than that, but I just wanted to round up to make it an even number. And I know that's a lot of money, and we're starting off this video very expensive, but the copy edits for me are always the most expensive thing, and you can spend less on an editor, but I do find how much you spend does directly correlate with the quality of edits. I've had horrible experience with editors, and I've now consistently worked with Natalia. It is money well spent because you get your manuscript back and you're like, wow, that's why I spent that much, because she's extremely thorough. The next thing we'll discuss is an illustrator. So I'm a cover designer. I don't typically hire someone to illustrate my books or design my books for me, so this was new territory. So I actually hired an illustrator to do the cover for The Trail to You and Me, and that is because I had this very specific vision and I wanted the couple on the cover, and I can draw landscape okay, I cannot do people. So that's why I ended up hiring an illustrator. I've said many times, when I do book cover design, I do photo manipulation. That is my specialty. I am in no way, shape, or form an illustrator. So that's why I wanted to hire someone out to do it for me. And then I also ended up hiring the same illustrator to redo the covers for Meet Me at the Summit and Let the Rubble Fall. And honestly, it was a great experience, and I love the outcome of all of the covers, but especially of the Trails to You and Me. But I spent $300 on this illustration, and it included, the full wrap. And then I also got the Photoshop files so I could go in and kind of modify things myself as I saw need. Now, the illustration did not include typography, and if you look at, the whole cover wrap, we obviously have the type on the cover, the spine, and then, of course, the back of the book. So I did the typography myself because, I am a cover designer, so I have the skill set to do that. Just know, if you're not a cover designer, you don't have experience in Photoshop, this is something you're going to have to hire out for. Now, I do have a book cover design course that is coming out very soon. So if you want to sign up for the waitlist for my book cover design course, you can. I actually have an entire section just to teach you typography. So if you are someone who ends up hiring an illustrator to illustrate your book, but you still need someone to do the typography, that is an option that you could learn typography relatively easily and do it yourself. So if you want to sign up for the waitlist for the course, it will be linked down below. Next thing we should discuss is formatting. So I format my books myself, so I actually didn't spend any money formatting, but I just wanted to mention it because it is a pretty significant cost if you end up hiring someone to format your book for you. So that's something you should budget for if you are self-publishing your book. Like I said, I formatted mine myself, so I spent $0 on formatting. But if you want to learn how to format your book yourself as well, I teach you how to do that in my course that's already out. I teach you how to format your book for print and ebook using Adobe InDesign. I personally feel that Adobe InDesign is one of the best softwares. While you can format your book in Microsoft Word, it usually leads to a lot of headache and confusion, and there's just not a lot of customizability. Okay, we've talked about a lot of things that I was able to do for free and save money on. Let's talk about the second largest chunk of money I spent on publishing this book, and it has nothing to do with the publishing and everything to do with the marketing. So this is just something that I tend to do, is I like to experiment with my marketing. I'm very privileged in the fact that as an author, I have multiple streams of income, whether that be YouTube, when I work with clients, the actual book sales, all of that. I have multiple streams of income, so I tend to have a bit of a larger budget when it comes to publishing my books. So as someone who makes YouTube videos on self-publishing, I kind of take it as my job to do experimental marketing things. And that's one of the things that I did for this book. So the whole reason I started doing the Book Adventure Box in the first place was because I wanted to have my books featured in Once Upon a Book Club, which is basically what the Book Adventure Box is, but like fancier and more professional looking. So the Once Upon a Book Club is a book box just like this, where you get gifts that are wrapped up nicely and cutely, and as you're reading the book, you have different gifts to open, and it's absolutely adorable. My dream has always been to have one of my books featured in this box. And just logistics-wise, that has been something that's very hard to accomplish. But I've always had a good relationship with the owner of that book box, and she's always told me to, let her know when I have a new book coming out. So when I had The Trail to You and Me coming out, I reached out. I was like, hey, can I feature the book in the box? And she basically told me, they already had their books picked out for that month, but that I could do an ad insert in the box. And now I'm sure you're seeing where this is going. And the thing is, the people that subscribe to the Once Upon a Book Club box are my ideal reader. Like, that demographic, they sent me the demographic information and the stats on how many boxes they sell and what their newsletter list is like and blah, blah, blah. That demographic is what I need for this book. So it became incredibly irresistible to me, and the issue is that the ad insert for the box was incredibly expensive. Like reasonable but also expensive. Because the ad insert was to have a flyer about my book printed and put in every single box for the Once Upon a Book Club box. And not only that, I'd also have like a little graphic feature in their newsletter. So my book could potentially, or would be, put in front of thousands and thousands of readers. And I just couldn't resist. So for my ad insert for my flyer, I was able to do a double-sided flyer. So on one side, I promoted my books, Meet Me at the Summit and The Trail to You and Me, because you can start with either of those books in the series, because Meet Me at the Summit is book 1, but The Trail to You and Me is a standalone. So I wanted to come up with a fun way to kind of make it like a game for readers to choose which book they want to read. But then, besides just letting readers know that the books existed, I wanted a strong call to action, which is why on the back of the flyer, there's a call to action for a digital book signing, which I'll tell you guys about now. So on August 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be doing a digital book signing right here on YouTube. So I'll be selling signed editions of all of my books, Meet Me at the Summit, Let the Rubble Fall, and The Trail to You and Me. And during that signing, I'll be doing like a fun Q&A and of course signing the books. And I'll also be having a sale on the books as well. So make sure to stay tuned for that. If you want to be notified about the book signing to make sure you don't miss it, make sure to RSVP to the book signing. You can do that by filling out the little form in the description of this video, so you can RSVP to the book signing and you'll get email notifications when we go live and also before the sale ends, so you don't miss the book sale. So what I'm saying here is I ended up paying for the ad insert for Once Upon a Book Club box. So if you end up getting the July box, you should see an ad insert for this book right here, and then also an ad insert in their newsletter as well. That did not come cheaply. That was $1,134. And I did do the math on how many books I would have to sell to even break even. And it's not a small number, but I am keeping in mind that my book will be put in front of thousands of people. So my hope is that of those thousands of people that see the ad, that 5 to 10% of them go out and buy the book. Because if 5 to 10% of them go out and buy the book, I'm golden. If less than that buy the book, I'm a little less than golden. So at the time of filming this, the box has not gone out yet. It goes out at the end of July. So I have no stats to share with you guys yet, but I will. Assuming, I hope it all goes well. I will be able to kind of give you guys a deep dive into numbers and how many sales I saw, and I'm hoping and assuming that as soon as the box ships out and people receive their box and they open the box and they open the email newsletter, that I will see a significant increase in sales. And when that happens, I hope to do a video on that to tell you guys, hey, it went really well, or hey, I wasted $1,000. But that's just, if it weren't for my YouTube channel, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I felt like I had to take one for the team, for you guys, to let you know if this is going to go well or not. And that's just, I like to do little experimental things like that for my YouTube channel. And that's why we are here where we are today. So anyways, we're going to move on from that. I promise that's the last large giant chunk of change I spent on publishing this book, but it was for the sake of a small marketing experiment. Okay, so moving on, the next thing I spent money on was my book trailer. Now I edit my book trailers myself, I produce them myself, all of that I do myself, but these days I've been doing book trailers with stock videos. So stock videos are something that I have to purchase. I use a website called Storyblocks to purchase my stock videos, and I do like a 1-month subscription. And in this case, I did a subscription where I could download 5 stock videos, and that's exactly what I needed for the book trailer, and that subscription was $30, and then after that I just canceled it, so I only had to spend $30. If you want to know more about how you can use stock videos to make a book trailer, I actually have a video on it. I'll leave that linked below. Highly recommend you watch it. If you ask me, it's actually a very affordable way to make a very cool marketing thing for your book. Another thing I wanted to mention is that for a lot of the stuff that I've talked about here is I use the Adobe program. So I use Adobe Photoshop for my book cover. I use Adobe InDesign for my formatting. I use Adobe Premiere Pro for my book trailer. So those things aren't free, but it's something that I pay for regardless of whether I'm publishing a book, because, you know, I'm a freelancer. I work with other authors to design their book covers and format their books. I'm also a YouTuber, so I use those softwares on a nearly daily basis anyways. So I wanted to mention that I use these softwares because these softwares aren't free. They are subscription based. So I spend about $55 a month on them. But if you're an author and you're publishing a book and you want to use these softwares as well, it's just something to keep in mind in your budget. You can just sign up for the 1 month that you need it, and then you can cancel it. Or if you're someone who thinks that you're going to use it on a regular basis, sign up for their yearly subscription because you'll end up saving money that way. But again, I'm not accounting that into the costs of self-publishing my book, but I did want to mention it here because it's not software that's free. Another expense was book funnels. So this time around when I was sending out advanced reader copies of my book, I used book funnel to do that. And honestly, it was actually a very positive experience. I tried to use book funnel previously, and I kind of messed up in how I was using it. But this time for the Trail to You and Me, I had a very positive experience. I was able to reach out to a bunch of Instagrammers and sent them links to download the book. And, you know, book funnel is great because it just makes it super easy for readers to download the book, and then it makes it easy for me because you can set up automatic emails to remind reviewers to review the book come release day. So all in all, it just made everything like super streamlined for me. And that is another like software that is subscription based. It's $15 a month. At this time, I've spent about $30 on it. So that's what I'm putting into my self-publishing budget. But I think it's a software that I'm going to continue using because I have some like marketing ideas and outreach ideas for, you know, doing more stuff with Instagrammers to get my book noticed on Instagram that way. The last thing I spent money on was my vinyl stickers. So these are the stickers that I included in the book adventure box, but they're also stickers that I gave away to people who pre-ordered the book. So I had a pre-order form where people would fill out their information and they get a vinyl sticker as well as a signed book plate. So the vinyl stickers I spent $49.98 on, and that was for a pack of 100. Now also note that I said that for my pre-order campaign, I also sent out signed book plates. So to send out my signed book plates, I use sticker paper, and sticker paper is just something that I already had on hand. Same with the ink that I use to print out the sticker paper. So that's not something I calculated into the cost. There's a lot of like little things that I already have on a regular basis or use on a regular basis as a business that I didn't feel counted as an individual cost for self-publishing my book. So you may find as you go to sit down and self-publish your book that there's these random small miscellaneous expenses that you may not have accounted for. So it's always good to put like a little bit of a buffer into your budget. Okay, so that is all the expenses that I had for self-publishing this book right here. It is time to tally up the total. Oy. So for this book, I spent $2,743.98. That's a lot. I know. And a huge chunk of that is the little experimental marketing insert in the book box. So we'll see how that goes. But otherwise, if you take the experimental marketing out of the budget, which was over $1,000, then that meant we spent just under $2,000, which I feel is kind of typical for me, at least. I can't speak for all authors. I definitely tend to spend quite a bit on self-publishing, but it's mainly due to what I spend when I go to do editing, and I'm just not someone who's comfortable cheaping out when it comes to hiring an editor. Anyways, that is it for this video. Let me know if you enjoyed the behind the scenes look into the cost of self-publishing my book. Otherwise, I will see you all in next week's video.